morning everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I decided to do the Harmony bag by Shamballla. So this pattern I have altered a little bit because I put a tassel zipper pocket on the back. I've also added a tassel here. I've gone all out with all the bag hardware. So we've got zip ends and strap ends and conchos, and I just absolutely love this bag. So if you would like to see how I've made it, please stay tuned. I'm going to start with my strap because it's quick and easy. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape down the center. So I'm just going to be doing this in half. I was going to do an accent of the other vinyl on it, but I have since decided against that. So I just want to do a nice, simple looking strap so that it doesn't take away from the bag. So I'm just going to fold both sides into the center like this. And I have found that if you bring both sides in at the same time, it does work a bit quicker. Also, I like to use my little scraper just to push it down. Now this color vinyl is called Robin Egg. I really like this color. So the scraper just kind of helps it stick to the double-sided tape. Now don't pull all of your backing off at once because the strap is so long, it is more likely to get caught and stuck to things. So I like to do it piece by piece so that it won't accidentally go and stick to something like the table. I've learnt this the hard way, so please learn from my mistake. So I'm just squishing them together and then pushing it down with the scraper. This scraper doesn't do anything but this with vinyl, so it has no marks on it, so it's not going to mark my vinyl. If it does happen to get dirty, make sure that you clean it. As you can see, sometimes the scraper doesn't want to push it down as much as you'd like. But this is what I found the quickest way. You can go up one side and then back the other, but with a little bit of practice, this way is the quickest way to do it. Now that I'm at the end, I can pull that off. I'm going to put that straight in the bin. Try and tidy as you go as well. It doesn't take that much more effort to put it in the bin instead of next to you, and you'll find that a cleaner workspace is easier to focus in. If you're constantly having to move rubbish and things around, it's cutting into time and focus. Whoops. Okay. Now, I'm going to put in, I've got like a half bobbin here. I'm going to put in the new bobbin so that I don't have any joins on my strap. This thread is from Vibin Threads. It's the, I don't even know what color it's called, maybe aqua, or turquoise, or I don't remember. But it's the only light blue one there. It's not like a pale blue. Okay, so I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch each side of the joint. Take your time with this, it's not a race. I'm using a Teflon foot, and apparently I'm being very descriptive of everything today. So this is a Teflon foot that I bought on eBay. It was, I think, I don't know. It cost a little bit more because it was in Australia, but I got it, it was in Melbourne, so I got it in 3 days. And I was in a hurry since I broke my other one. My old one used to be green, which was also Teflon foot. I don't ever change this foot off this machine. Now that I'm at the end, I'm going to backstitch, pick up the whole thing. I'm going to trim off those tails, lift my needle up, jump straight to the other side. I'm not going to bother cutting that off because you won't see it later anyway. And then we're going to go back down the other side. I always find the second side quicker. Again, it's not a competition. I'm using my fingernails and my fingers to hold it exactly where it needs to go. It's like having two guides. My fingers don't move, and therefore the stitching is nice and straight. Back stitch at the end. And now we have this. If you wanted to, you could do another 2 lines each side if you wanted to have more lines on your strap. But I'm happy with the subtlety that is. So now I'm going to pop that aside. Strap is done. I'm going to wrap it up in a circle so it sits nicer on the table. Excellent. Next up, we are going to go to our gusset piece. So I've already put interfacing. So this vinyl is quite thin. This was from Spotlight. It's like this cool metallic blue. Because it was so thin and flimsy, I did actually put my Hefty, which is Vilene 1050F. And then I've also ironed my bag foam on. I use my heat press for this. So we're going to need that. We actually do need this. That's why it's attached to it, because we need to know where we're putting our strap connector. We also need our strap connector piece. So this will do 2. So we're going to cut it in half in a minute. Again, because this is flimsier, I have ironed my Hefty down the center, just for, you know, added insurance or protection or whatever you want to go with. So I'm going to peel off that backing, and then both sides should just fold into the center over my interfacing. Now I've cut that so it is the right size. So I cut 2 inches of the vinyl, and then I've put a 1-inch strip of interfacing in there, and then this just wraps around. And so now you can decide where you're going to stitch. I'm still going to stitch in the center just to keep everything the same, but you don't have to. You could stitch on the outside if you wanted it to have a different look, or if you did your strap differently. And then we're going to go the other way. Now I don't really need a back stitch. I am about to cut this in half. And we won't actually see much of this either. We're only going to see the tiniest amount. But that metallic blue with that thread looks really cool in real life. So, fold it in half. Oh, sorry, I've got a runny nose. And then chop it. So now we have 2 strap connectors. Now, if you are using a removable strap, you will need to put D-rings on here. I'm not going to have my strap removable, so I need square rings, which I forgot to grab. Give me a sec while I grab some square rings. Right, sorry about that. So, I got the fine square rings. I didn't get the chunky ones, just because this is not where I want the focus to be. So I'm going to put the join side on the inside like this. Fold this over, and I'm just going to clip it there. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. Just so that I make sure I'm putting it in correctly. Like that. So that's now my little strap connectors. Now I'm going to take my piece here, and I'm going to actually use some clips and clip it in place so it doesn't slide around while I'm trying to cut the hole. Like this. 3 is probably enough. I'm going to take my craft knife. This one is Kaiser Craft. I also have like a cheap $2 one. And I'm just going to slit straight across. Now I'm doing this nice and slowly and not applying too much pressure as I move along so that I don't go too far, because that would suck. So that's my cut all the way through. If you're using fabric on your outside, you will probably just want to stitch them to the outside, but I'm going to slot mine in. I actually forgot to check what the pattern says about that, but I've decided I'm putting mine in instead of on. If I had have used the opposite color vinyl and had contrasting, I could have had it fun and on the outside, but this is what we're doing. So again, I'm slicing. I'm not putting too much pressure so I don't go further than I need to. And that is now both of those marked. I'm going to put my knife back so I don't stab myself, because yes, I do it a lot. Now, I'm going to open this out but leave everything on, and I'm going to push 1/2 of my strap connector through the hole, like so. So this is what we're aiming for, but first I have to stitch just above the hole and stitch this down for some added support. So I'm just going to stitch here and back stitch to lock it in. Now these stitches won't be seen, so they can be as messy as you like. And then trim off the tails so that they're not in my way. So now that is actually attached on there. So I can take this second half now and push it back through the hole. And I'm going to both stitch and put a rivet because I have the fun decorative rivets. And if any time is a time to use them, it's right now. So we're going to start here. I'm going to stitch and I'm going to do a single back stitch. And I'm still on my nice long stitch length. And I'm going to stitch like so. Trimming off those tails. I'm going to leave this excess because I'm actually going to put the rivet through the whole lot to make it extra secure. It's just going to be like a nice little decorative thing there. So let's do the other side. Again, push it through the hole, pull it down, stitch. Again, you don't see these stitches. Obviously you don't want to make them too messy, but they don't need to be perfect. Trim off all the tails so that it's not messy, and then I'm going to fold the other half down and in, and then pull till it won't go any further. Put my tails behind the machine and backstitch to lock it in. Again with those pesky tails. And so now this is what we've got. So now I need my hole punch. And I'm going to put one. Now you can measure it if you want to. You could put 2. You could do whatever you like. This has been my new favorite thing in the universe because I can measure everything accurately. So I'm going to take a pen and this, and I'm going to measure. I'm going to put 2 rivets because why not? So I'm just going to line it up with any line on the stitching, and I'm going to do 1 line, and then I'm going to go down 2 and put a second one. So line up, so one of the lines, doesn't matter which one, and then I'm going to go the next one and then skip. Do I skip 2? I skip 1 and then do another hole. So this is what we've got now. I'm going to punch my holes. 1 and 2. And then I'm going to take my decorative rivets and push them through and put the small cap on the back. Like that. And then I'll put my second one in. Making sure I push all the way through. And put the cap on the back. Then we're going to do the same to this one. Then I'll grab the other hole punch, or if you've only got 1 hole punch, you will then change to your other one. Push them in. And again, I could have just done 1. You don't have to do 2. You don't have to do any. It's just pretty. We all know I like pretty. And since we've got fringing everywhere, I thought this would be extra pretty. I also plan on featuring these on the front of the bag to keep everything kind of balanced out. Right, so they are pushed on with my fingers. So I'm going to grab my other one, which has my rivet press. And I'm going to make sure that I press them right side up so that I don't smash the plastic on top. It's meant to look like what I assume is jade or turquoise. It's actually just a plastic or acrylic or something to that effect. But they are now pushed down and I didn't smash them, which is lovely. So now I'm going to take my base. And I won't be putting bag feet on this bag, just because I don't feel like it. I'm going to go down to a joining stitch length, which for me is 2.5. And I'm going to clip these together. I don't really know why I'm using clips today. It's not really my thing. And using the seam allowance that's in the pattern, which I can guess by where the foam stops, we're going to trim that off. Then I'm going to do the other side. And then I think I might top stitch either side of that with a decoratively long size 4 stitch length. Because this bag is all about being a little bit extra. That's why I've picked the insane fabrics that I've picked. So we're going to go back up to 4. And I'm going to open this out flat. And I'm going to stitch both sides. I'm just going to move Scully out the way so I don't knock him over. So we're going to go up one side. And then pivot and go back the other side. Oops. Like that. I'm not even back stitching. I just think it adds a little something because the thread is so contrasting. One side, fling round, down the other side. Voila! So now we can put that aside. That one is done. While we're on the subject of gussets though, we may as well do the lining gusset. So this one's got almost the same amount of pieces. It's just doing different things. So this gusset is going to have a vinyl upper so that it matches the rest of the upper part of the bag. So I'm going to take this one and this one. Now this is just cotton fabric and it's got a medium interfacing on it. And the vinyl's got nothing because it is a nice thick vinyl. So again, back to 2.5 stitch length. We're going to stitch across. I'm going to grab the second one, do the same thing. Line it up, back stitch, stitch across. And then, if you want to, top stitch along here. Just to hold that down and in place. 1 and 2. You can see that I'm chain stitching. I love a good chain stitching. It saves time and thread. So, doesn't matter which way this goes. Mine is, I've done the directions the way I wanted them to go. Back stitch, trim that off. This one I'll have to pull out. And then we're going to go the other one, right sides together. Pin and... Now I fussy cutted this, so this actually took a lot more fabric than is supposed to. But the sides are perfectly even, so that the pattern will continue. Even though that this won't necessarily touch the other side, I've tried to make it as matching as I could, just because I could. So that's your other gusset done. Now we are going on to, I'm going to do the outside last. So I'm going to take my, where are they? My zipper pieces, if I can find them. Here we go. Which is that pattern piece there. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to put some double-sided tape down the end of one end so that we can fold this up and under. And then I'm going to take this so that it's facing the right way. So if you look at this, this is actually joined like that. So to make sure the pattern's going the right way. Not that anyone looks under the zip, but it's just good practice to get things going the right way in case you ever have to do it on the outside. Okay, so I've now got this. So you want to take the backing off. Once it sticks would be nice. If it doesn't stick, just rub it a little bit. Sometimes the heat of your fingers will help it to stick to the fabric. Sometimes it won't, apparently. And then you want to make sure that you turn under the same amount. So I'm lining it up with my ruler on here. And then I'm going to fold it and press it onto itself so that there's no raw edge. That's what we're aiming for. Put your rubbish in your bin as you go so that you don't have a mess surrounding you. And sometimes the tape just doesn't want to let go of the backing. So again, I'm going to line it up at the same spot. Fold it over the same amount. The ruler that I've stuck on here is great. So you can buy these on eBay. They're like a couple of dollars. They are worth it, I promise. So again, the backing's just not my friend, apparently. Doesn't want to lift off. Some things it just sticks easier to. Another side. Last side. So again, we're lining everything up and then we're folding it under. Excellent. So I'm going to go with turquoise tape because it matches everything else that's going on. It's actually very close to the robin egg. I know it's a little bit off, but it's close enough as zipper tape anyway. I'm just going to melt this in. Clearly I forgot to do it when I put it in the cupboard. It's getting flyaways. So I want, because I'm putting a zipper end on, I don't know how much we're meant to cut, but I'm going to cut that much. If you're going to use your good scissors, make sure you cut the teeth at the very back. I have a scissor sharpener, so I'm a lot less worried about those things. And my husband can sharpen anything else I destroy, which is lovely. I'm going to need this again because I'm adding pockets. Okay, so we are going to line this up along this edge. Oh wait, not that one. The lining. Grab a lining. There we go. Which way does it go? Okay, so that's the end. Probably doesn't matter anyway. That's fine. All right, so we're going to grab this end. So this is the raw edge here. And I'm just going to take some Wonder Clips and clip it along the edge. Like this. I'm using lots of clips because I don't want it to move while I'm sewing because this is a bit stretchy. It's got enough stretch to annoy me. So now I'm going to line up the folded over end and then add it into my clips. Now you can do this with 3 things at once, but I always find personally that it's quicker for me to do it that way. So now I want to break this zipper end open a bit and kind of tuck it down so that I don't stitch it into what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to stitch across this end and then down and stop where the fabric stops. So we're going to stitch, we're going to back stitch. That's going to lock it in. We're going to go over the zipper teeth. Now if you're using metal zipper teeth, make sure that you maneuver so that you don't hit them because you will snap a needle. And then I'm going to go down slowly, making sure that it's not stretching at all, which as you can tell takes a little bit more effort, but it is worth it. And then I'm going to back stitch when I get to there. Trim those tails in the bin. And then I'm just going to chop off that little excess bit in the corner so that it turns out nicer. And then push it out. And your zip should be going around the corner, or what it looks like it's doing at least. And then I'm going to crank it up to 4 because that is my decorative stitch length that I have chosen for this bag. You don't have to make the stitch length longer, but I like to. And I'm clipping this together to make sure that it's going to sit evenly and that I don't accidentally stitch something more than the other side and get a loop. So I just find it easier if I'm clipping this along here, and again, you don't have to do this, but by clipping them evenly, I'm now going to top stitch them evenly, or at least that's the theory. So we're going to start at the closed end, needle down, pivot, and up we go. So again, I'm trying not to stretch this. I could have also put a medium interfacing on it to help prevent stretching. And I get up to the end, needle down, pivot, across, and then just to make my life easier later, I am going to baste this edge shut. Since I've already pinned it in place anyway, it can't really hurt. Right. One side done. Next side. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to line the raw edge up here and clip it. Now you can separate this. I'm actually going to separate the zipper because I don't need it attached until it's like the last step to put the zipper thing on. So I'm just clipping along. Now if you're really worried about detaching your zip, you don't have to do it. Or if you've bought a zipper that is just long enough and has a stopper already, that is also fine. You don't have to do it my way. You can leave it attached. I just find this easier. And then we're going to add this into the clips, making sure it all lines up because they are the same size. And that's why we use the ruler to measure how much we tuck under. Because even if you cut them so that they weren't even, you have now folded them so that they are. All right. Starting to get mess around me again. I don't like mess. So I'm going to start at this end now because I always like to have the bulk out of my machine where possible. Back to adjoining stitch length. And yes, I am changing stitch lengths a lot. When we get to the end, we're going to go across and backstitch. And then again with the scissors, and we're going to cut out the bulk in this corner. Now I'm usually highly against cutting zipper tape, but in this particular instance, I've already sewn, so I'm not worried. If you are worried it'll fray though, just grab your lighter and just run it over, and that'll help seal it again. Alright, so we're going to pull that out, and then we're going to repeat before. So we're going to make sure that both sides line up and pin it down. Bring this one around, line it up, clip it down. I'm going to make my clips face the vinyl. And along we go. Voila. So I'm going to start at this end. Again, this is just the way I want to do it. Bring Scully back so he can grab all my clips. I'm back up to a size 4 stitch length because I'm top stitching. And I'm trying to have my top stitching consistent. Needle down, pivot, off the end, and then I'm just going to baste it in place. And so now we have our zipper bits. So I'm going to grab my lining pieces. Now I think I'm going a little off script with the pattern here because I'm going to add an interior pocket. I like pockets, it's my thing. You could also add a slip pocket. What you could do is you could just fold this down X amount and then cut 2 more and have a full slip pocket. But I chose a Tory pocket. And again, I have fussy cut these so that they sit the same. So in the bag, the pattern's going to sit the same. It took more fabric, but with this kind of a pattern, I highly recommend it because it's got the horizontal lines going. You do want it to match up as best as possible. So that's what I did. So we're just going to take one of these and a Tory pocket. Now I've got 2 because I've also, as you saw at the start, which I keep forgetting that I do, I've put one on the outside. Because the back just felt a bit unloved to me. So I decided to give it some love. So I'm going to fold this in half. I've already drawn my rectangle on because it's on the Tory pocket piece. And then I am going to line this up with this bit here is where I've decided it's going. Now, I know that's not very accurate as far as measurements go, but it's more about the pattern. You also don't want to put it too high, remembering that you're going to have a zipper here. So I feel like that much is probably enough. You also don't want it too low because then you won't have a very big pocket. So eyeball it. I can measure it for you if you'd like. You probably can't answer me, so I should do it anyway. It is 2.5 inches down from that edge is the bottom of that line. Keeping in mind that 1/2 inch is thingy, so it'll be 2 inches from where the zipper is. But that's going to work for me. So I'm going to line up those center clips and I'm going to line this up along that little bit there. So this is going to go this way a bit more so that it's in the center. A little bit more. There we go. So it's lined up here. And so now I just need to line it up here. And I'm going to stitch the 2 long lines. I no longer stitch the short edges because I get a better, flatter result this way. So we're going to stitch and back stitch to lock it in. Stitch along, back stitch when I get to the end. Pivot, up and over, stitch and back stitch to lock it in. and then back the other way. You will also notice that I do not interface my Tory pockets. I personally think it's too much interfacing, and I don't like my pockets that stiff or that heavy. It's just more weight you're adding to your bag. So I never interface these bits. The main panels I do, but this bit I do not. So I'm just going to cut down the center, and then when I get about 1/2 inch from the end, I'm going to start making a triangle cut to triangle out those corners. Then we're going to go the other way. Now you can make your triangles more than 1/2 inch. I wouldn't recommend less though, because you want to make sure that that tab is going to be folded and stitched down. So if you can see how much I've got here, we're definitely going to catch it when we stitch around. But if you make that triangle really small, there's a chance you'll miss it. So you want it a decent length. I don't think I've ever explained that before. Right, so I'm going to finger press this up, and then finger press this down, and then push it through the hole. And I'm going to get my thumbs to push out those edges like I always do. And I think my horses are going to be upside down in the pocket because I wasn't paying attention when I cut it. That's okay. Right, so now I've got this. I have made a little vinyl accent piece because I just thought it would be cute, and it is. I was correct. Now, I actually measured this whole thing using the Tory pocket. I have decided I will do a mini video on how to do that because I felt very clever when I did it. And I feel like that makes the Tory pocket have more than one use, because now you can make matching accent pieces. And all the measurements you need are already on the ruler, which I thought was very clever. So there was no actual measuring with a ruler to make this. It was all just the Tory pocket template. Tory pocket template. Makes more sense. Right, so double-sided tape, stick her down, making sure that the edges line up with the edge of the fabric. Like that. And then I'm going to stitch. Now, I'm going to make sure that the pocket is out of the way the whole time I'm stitching. I back up on my decorative size 4 stitch length. And I'm not going to start in a corner because it's harder to hide your back stitching. So I'm not going to back stitch. I'm going to stitch along the top. I'm using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance here. And because I've made this perfectly square, it's easy to turn corners. So I'm just going to keep pulling the pocket out of the way as I go around. Needle down, flick it up. Needle down. So every time I pivot, I also just flick my hand underneath and it pushes everything out of my way. And then again. So now that we're getting back to the start, what I want to try and do is go through that hole, then forward and back one. And that's locked in both the start and the finish with a very minimal kind of accent point. You can barely, like if I didn't point that out to you, you can barely see it because I didn't do a lot of back stitching. I've literally gone through the single hole. If you want to as well, you can just melt that down. Voila. So now we're going to take a zipper pull. I am just using chunkies because I think I have decided that they are my favorite. Oh, see that? I just made it all fray and gross. This is why you should always singe. Apparently different colored dyes react differently to zipper tape. So some of them hate me, like this turquoise color, and fray very easy. And other colors, you can leave them forever and they're still fine. But I am learning from my mistakes and I am going to singe both of those. No, we still need that. We've got another pocket yet. So, crack a zip. push. I think I have just decided right now that I want to put a tassel on the zipper on the outside. I think I just decided that then. We'll see if I actually do it. So, I always try and stop my zipper in approximately the center. You don't want to go too far over because I'm going to make sure that the zipper is facing, closing to the left. And then I'm going to line the zipper up on the zipper teeth. Then I'm going to open this out and place this over the top, like so. Then I'm going to start this side of the closing part of the zip. Again, making sure everything is lined up, like so. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did to the outside. Except I'm not going to push everything out of the way this time because I actually want it there. And then up and over the zipper. So now that I'm here, I'm going to put my needle down and I'm going to zip that up. So now I haven't disturbed the line of sewing at all. And everything is neat and organized. Needle down, over the end. And again, we're making sure that the pocket is now out and open and flat. And then we go through the first hole and then back stitch. And I missed a bit. Looks like I fell off the vinyl. So I'm just going to come back, re-stitch there, and then trim out the dodgy stitches so that they're not there anymore. Because I back stitched into the line of stitches that were already there, I no longer need these few. This is what happens when you don't pay full attention to things. It's only 3 stitches in each direction though, so it's not a big deal to fix. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to get rid of those holes, since you guys love it when I fix problems. Alright, need to detach from the machine. So, looking up close and personal, see how there's like those little holes where I veered off accidentally? I'm going to fix them. Now, you can't do this with like big holes. This doesn't work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lighter. You have to use the blue part of the flame or you're just going to discolor it. I'm going to get the lighter and I'm going to go right in there and then just heat it up and then touch it like this. And what this is going to do is it's going to heat up and melt the vinyl enough that I can basically fill in the holes with itself. You can't do it for long. You need to do it in like small sections, but they can be fixed. Voila, holes are gone. Tiny steps. Don't overheat it quickly or you will just melt it and burn it and life will be over. So you need to do it in like short little bursts like I did. And then just kind of touch it and smudge it. You're pretty much trying to smudge it. Now, I'm going to fold this back and I'm going to stitch down the 2 sides. This will be my pocket I turn through at the end. So I'm going to leave the bottom of this open. And I just ran out of bobbin thread. I saw that. Those in the bin over that way. I've got a little bit left on this one. I am going to need a third because this is not full and because I keep adding things, which to be honest I don't mind about. I think it's looking fabulous so far. So I'm going to fold this back as well. And then stitch down or up the other side. Up or down, doesn't really matter. Now we've got this cool accent panel. If you wanted to, you could also add some rivets here. Because I've used this vinyl, these rivets aren't going to go there nicely, so I am going to skip that step. But the size of this does have that option that if you want to put a rivet there to be decorative, you definitely can. It's just not suiting this particular bag. Right, moving on. I now need my... Where did I put them? I need the other pieces. So we want the second one of these, and we want our zippers, and we're going to want our lining contrast band. Right, so I'm going to start with the zipper pocket. I'm going to take the piece right sides up that is going to close the same way as this zipper because I like things to match. Then, easiest way I know how, fold it in half, find the center. Same with the top, fold it in half, find the center. You'll notice I do this to a lot of bags. It is just quicker than actually measuring with a ruler, and that's why I do it. So, we are going to clip and then work your way from the center outwards, like so, with as many clips as you feel comfortable. Now I'm putting a lot of clips because this is slippery little vinyl and I don't want it to move. So now I've got this, so it's clipped on. We are going to grab our panel, which goes up like this, turn it upside down and attach it in. You might need an extra clip on each end for that. And then I'm just going to add it into my clips that I've already got on there. And one extra one on the end. Now, you also want to make sure that this is not going to get stitched. So I'm going to fold it back on itself and clip the teeth to the teeth like that. That way, it's not going to annoy me for the rest of the bag. That's going to stay on there for quite a while, actually. So that's one. I'm going to do two so that I can chain stitch because I love chain stitching. And I hope I'm convincing you to do chain stitching too. You'll notice I don't need the top center because it's the same width as this, so it should all just line up. So then this one will look like it's going the opposite way, which it is, but it's meant to. Clipping it down. And this is why we basted it before, because now it's less layers I have to line up all at once. So again, I'm going to take this, fold it over and clip it to the zipper tape so it's not going to fall up accidentally and get into any of my stitching that it shouldn't be in. So you can even clip the two edges because we know that they're the same size and then just add the clips in like this. You can do it any way you want. Whatever makes you happy, really. There is no right and wrong. So now that I've done that, we're still on our joining stitch length. And so now we're going to do the proper seam allowance. And I can hear my bobbin running out, but I'm hoping I will get to at least here. I won't even top stitch with this bobbin though, for fear that it's going to wreck it. So I can trim this one off. Trim your tails while you're there if you want to. And backstitch. Ta-da! I check my bobbin. Oh look, that was the end of it. Fantastic. So I'm just going to wind another bobbin and we'll be right back to continue. So bobbin is now all fixed back up to size 4 stitch length. And I'm going to stitch under the zipper placard. So we did this on the side panels, like the gusset panels. So now I'm going to do it here as well. And this is just going to hold all of this down nice and flat. Pardon me. then again along this side. Awesome. And that is our lining done. So now we need our lining gusset, which is this one with the vinyl at the top. Now it's just a matching game. Actually, I am going to start with the one with the zipper. There's reasons for my madness, I swear. So the first thing I'm going to do is line up this piece with this piece here. Not the top, weirdly enough, I know. I'm actually going to line up here first because that's the bit I care about. Then I can line up the top like that and come down. Now, we should already have the center, so I'm just going to find the center of the gusset on both sides because we're going to need that. And I'm just doing a really small clip within the seam allowance, but big enough that I'm going to be able to see where the middle is. And so now I can come and join up the middle. Funny about that. I'm going to clip along. I'm going to make this seam allowance face the center. And then we're going to work around this bend. Now, holding it like this, it's not going to look like it fits. So what you need to do, and I always like to use my thumbs, I'm going to push it like the curve we're trying to make. And then you'll find it fits fine. I also am making sure all of my clips face the gusset because that's the way I'll be stitching it, gusset side up. And I've still got my thumb in here because that is still a curve. Now, you will notice that there are a few little kind of puckery bits here, but they are outside the seam allowance and therefore irrelevant. So it doesn't matter if there's pockers, so long as there's not pockers at the 1/2 inch mark. Oh, my stomach's talking. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Okay, so we're going to stitch towards that corner. Not stitch, sorry, clip. And then again, we're going to make sure that that faces the center. And I'm going to put a clip on it just to make sure it stays in place. Then we've got this last little corner. So again, push my thumbs so it sits like a curve. And clip. Like that. Awesome. Now we're going to stitch all the way around. We're going to stitch, we're going to back stitch. I need to go back to a joining stitch length because that was far too long. Slow and steady wins the race, but you can always go faster on straights. Trim off any tails you may find, and then check to make sure that all of your corners are beautiful, which they are. We're going to do the same to the other side, but with one major difference. I'm going to leave the whole bottom of the bag open because it will be easier to turn the bag through here than through the pocket, but then I can go through the pocket to stitch up the last little bit. This is recently what I've started doing because sometimes pockets are really hard to turn your bag through. And if you've got hand problems, you're probably failing and getting very frustrated. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. So we're going to come to here and I'm going to clip. And then I'm going to come to here and I'm going to clip. Basically clipping that in place. We're going to leave that whole bottom section open. So we want to actually be stitching there. But I have to make sure that it lines up. So you can take that clip off now. And then we're going to do the same as before, where we line up the side fabric. Because if that doesn't line up, you're going to notice it in your bag. Whereas if this edge doesn't line up at the top, you can just trim it off. It's much less dramatic. So now I'm working my way down. I'm getting to the corner. So again, I'm going to do that whole 3D thumb thing. Bring it down, push it out like that so it's doing its curve. And it's okay if it ruffles a little bit outside of the seam allowance. It's normal because it's a curve. So then, opposite side, we're going to line that up. We're going to clip, clip, clip. So see here, it is like a little bit out, but it's better to be out here than at this mark, because when you open the bag, it is super noticeable if it wouldn't line up, right? So we care more about that line than the top, because that little 1/8 of an inch or whatever I've got there, I can just snip it off. It won't even matter. It'll be hidden in the seam allowance anyway. So don't worry if things don't work out perfectly. And that was probably me sewing too fast and I veered somewhere. Just that little bit. But we can fix it. We just hide in the top. Not gonna lie, I sew very fast on videos sometimes. Mistakes happen, but you can always hide them. It's not a big deal. Right, so this is what you should have. The bottom is left open. So this is about the same size as the zipper pocket. The difference is we haven't got all of the fabric of the pocket to try and turn through as well. So it will be easier to go through here. But we don't want to then have to top stitch that bit because it'll look ugly, which is why we're going to do it through the pocket. Just if you're all wondering. Method to my madness, I swear. So we're going to do seam allowance. We're going to sew along. Going around the curve, and then when we get to here, we're going to stop. And then we're going to jump to this side and continue on. I promise this is easier than trying to turn this whole big bag with foam through the zipper pocket, even if I might seem crazy. Okay, so then we still want to go and check those corners to make sure that there's no puckering, because that is important. You still want it to look fabulous. When you're happy, I'm going to take my scissors, which are apparently now on the floor. So these are my pinking shears, which I call my zigzag scissors. And I'm going to cut all of this excess fabric off. Now the reason we use pinking shears is because it will help prevent fraying, and it also helps for this curve to be easier to maneuver because the zigzags allow for movement in between them. So this is why we use these scissors. I do not cut vinyl with these though. They're not really designed for it, if I'm honest. I'm going to cut all of this off as well, because having a less seam allowance will help the bag lining to sit flatter inside. Optional thing to do. You don't have to do it. I like to. But again, you want to really make sure that you make sure that there's no issues, because once you start cutting all this off, it's very hard to get an accurate seam allowance if you have to unpick and restitch. So double check it before you go snipping. That's now what we've got. You will notice that I left where I still have to sew for that exact reason of seam allowance. And now I am going to come up here and I am going to cut off that. We don't need that bulk in there. We still have to top stitch this bag, so you don't want too much bulk at the top, especially if your machine is not industrial and designed for bags. Now your lining is completely done. So we can pop that aside. Let's move on to the outer, which is the fun bit because it's got all the fringing. The fringing makes this bag, in my opinion. Now again, I cut these perfectly the same, so even though they won't actually touch, we've still got the same thing going on. See that? Beautiful. So you can pick one. If you have done a front versus a back, make sure that you pick the right one while you're doing this. And then we need to grab all of our fringing. Now I cut this fringing by using my tassel template. So I drew the line where I had to cut to, and then I just lined my tassel template up and off I went. This one is first, I think. And then this one. Like that. So you'll notice that these are shorter. That is to allow for your seam allowance. And then you should have another bit. Where's my other bit? I know there's another bit. It's on the floor. Of course it is. This is our top band. And I've kept this piece with us because I need to know where I'm putting all of these holes. The difference that I am not going to do is I'm not going to fold under this edge. I am just going to line it up like so. So you want to bring this up to where it's meant to be. Now you can tack this in place if you want to. I'm just going to bring it up like this. You can tack it in place so it's not going to shift. I want a longer stitch length for this. Otherwise we're going to be here forever. Line it up and off we go. And again, you have to remember that this blue vinyl is slippery. It doesn't really like to actually be stitched, so I've got pinches. However, I'm not worried about them because this is about to cover them all like that. See how that works? Oh, it's fabulous. I really like fringing, if you can't tell. So we're going to add some double-sided tape. So that it's going to stick in place. I might put some up the top here too, just for an added security measure. You obviously don't have to do this. It's just random, but it's just, I feel like it's going to be safer to do it than not. Now you can turn under that raw edge on your vinyl. I didn't do it because I feel like I'm not going to be able to get it nice, and it's going to take a lot of time to get that curve to tuck under well. So I'm just skipping it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to start in the center, line that up. Or do I come down a little bit? I have a sneaking suspicion I meant to come down a little bit. Fabulous. That looks awesome. So I am now going to stitch along that bottom line. Back to my size 4 stitch length. I'm going to have the bulk of the bag out. I am going to start in the corner and I'm going to back stitch. And then I am going to stitch very slowly. You're going to do this slowly because you really want it to look good. It's important. And then you want that one right in the point. And then we're going to back stitch. It's fabulous. Alright. Now I'm going to go a little bit crazy. And I left this last because of this reason. I have decided I sell conchos with press studs. However, I don't really care about the press stud part. I just want the concho bit. So that is going to go front and center like that because it's going to look fabulous. So to make sure that it doesn't fall out, I have pre-cut 2 pieces, scrappy pieces of stabilizer that I'm going to set behind them to help hold the screw in. because I think this is going to be fabulous. So bear with me. We need our template so that we can line up all of our holes that we need to punch. And this bit's probably the bit that's going to take the longest, but I promise it's going to be worth it. So, I'm going to grab some Wonder Clips just to clip this on so it doesn't shift while I'm trying to stab holes, because we want them to be the same on both sides. And I'm going to start with the side where I can see the holes for obvious reasons. So, we're going to slip under, and I'm going to go stab through the center point of all of these. And because I'm stabbing through the paper, it does mean that when I do the other side, we're going to be able to line this up very well. And then center point, stab. Take off your clips, flip her over. Now obviously we don't need to do that one again, but it does help you to line it up. So again, I'm going to clip this down so it doesn't shift while I'm stabbing holes. And then we're going to go the other way. Now, let's be honest, this piece of paper is probably going to be wrecked by the end of this. If you did interface it though, laminate it, it will definitely last for more than one bag. But I have all but trashed this, as you can see. But we will probably only need a single video, because I'm doing all the added extra bits now anyway. Okay, I've got all my holes stabbed. That's done. Actually, that's a lie. I also need to stab a hole through this. Doesn't matter if it's not perfectly in the center, it's just wherever you feel like. It's mainly so the screw will be able to get through. So I'm going to start with my big concho, I guess. And the screw. So the rest of this has kind of become a little pointless, although I'm sure I've got a backup piece that I can use, so I will not be throwing that out. I don't like to waste things. I might just need the one of these so that it's not too thick. So I'm going to push my screw through my little interfacing. This will be used elsewhere on a different project, so that's fine. I won't throw that out. And then you just kind of want to poke around until your screw's going to come through. I mean, I can see it, and I can feel it, and it is going to be a bit tricky to get in there, but I have faith. So, this is my little electric screwdriver I got off eBay. Now, the hardest bit is going to be lining it up through all of this. You'll feel it when it grabs. What I might do, I'm not actually cutting the vinyl, I'm just pushing it. I can see the screw. Oops. I can see the screw right here. I just need to make sure that this can easily access it, because it's got a bit of push. I knew this was going to be the tricky part, but I am going to persevere because I think it's going to look great. So, oh, I nearly had that. I felt it. Did I get it? Please tell me I got it. Nope. I was so close though. You don't even have to use the electric bit. You can just hand crank it if that's what's going to work for you. I just need to make sure that it's perfectly lined up, which is the difficult bit through all the layers, but pretty sure I just got it. So we're just going to screw this as tight as you can get it. Knew I'd get it. Knew I'd get it eventually. Right. I'm also going to put a double glue on that so it doesn't come undone. I have E6000 glue, which is my hands down most favorite glue in the universe. So I'm just going to put some glue and I just smush it in there. You don't need a lot of this stuff. It is what you stick rhinestones onto like competition bikinis and stuff with. I've got our first one in. Now, I have an assortment of baubles. So I'm just going to set it up with how I want it to look. And I just want to decide which way I like better. So I've got that, or I can do it the other way. So I'm just going to put in 4 to see what pattern I prefer, because I haven't decided. I think I like this side better. So every second one is going to be the turquoise. Now I know the blue and the tealy colour aren't the same. I get that, but this is still going to look cool. See how that works? Right, so I need my rivet set. Now these were my 9mm bag feet that I actually got to trial, and I decided they were way too small, which is why I don't offer them. So these are just my leftover from my sample that I got. 1, 2, 3, so I need 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. I knew they would come in handy one day. I've been hoarding these for almost a year. I knew I'd use them eventually. Today is finally that day. But yeah, I didn't love them for bag feet. I think they're far too small. But as decorative studs, they definitely work out. So maybe in the future I will get them in to offer as decorative studs. Who knows? I have to go find where I bought them from first, because I honestly do not remember. Alright, so I've pushed those 3 backs on. So I'm just then going to set them. 1, 2, and 3. Because of the size of the backings of these, they're not great for being able to hold any kind of like substance and weight like these other ones. But they do look cool. And then I'm going to just push the other ones through while I'm at it. And suddenly, this looks really cool. Alright, so now I'm going to press all those on, and then I'll do the other side with the jade or teal or whatever colour we're calling it. Right, nearly done. Oh, looks awesome. I don't need this bag, but I do kind of want to keep it. Not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna keep it because I have a million handbags and I just made myself a new one. But and as you can tell, it does take longer because of all this added detail, but I definitely think it's worth it. Ever since I saw this bag, this is the fabric I had to do with it. This is exactly what I had in my head, so that's lucky. Alright, so the front is now done, and it looks absolutely epic. The fringing's all good. It also gave me a second use for my tassel templates rather than just the tassel, so that made me a bit happy. Now onto the back. Now, I know in the pattern, the back one is just plain. However, I got motivated and inspired while I was cutting stuff out. While I was cutting the tassels, right before this video, I went, oh, let's do tassels on the back with a zipper, because that way the back is not useless. So, I did the same thing as I did earlier with the front, or the inner thing and measured it with the Tory template, which again, I will do a video on. And then I took the pattern for, I think it was the top one, but doesn't really matter. And I made a matching tassel. So this is actually one of the tassel pieces that I used, and I just met it in the middle and went out to some corners. So that is 6 inches long, which is half the tassel template. So this was all done, oh, not the tassel template, the Tory template. So I think that's going to be fabulous. I do want to have it a little bit higher because I don't want to hide too much of the horses. So I think around there would look really nice somewhere. And again, you don't have to have this. You don't have to do this. You can skip the lot. Okay. So, again, we're going to need to find the center eventually. So on this, because this is fabric, I have got my hefty and bag foam. So this is double-sided bag foam. So at the end of the bag, I can actually iron it from the inside and iron the lining to the back of this. Iron the lining. Yeah, I'm a bit tongue-tied today. It's fine. So you're going to fold it in half. Find the center. This is just going to help me line it up in the middle. Like so. And I wanted it nice and tall so that I wasn't covering too much of the horses. So I'm going to go in this brown strip here, which is 1, 2, 3 inches down from the top. If anyone's wanting the measurements of my making it upness. So, joining stitch length. Line it up in the center because you don't want this not centered. So even if you need to, grab a little ruler and make sure it's in the center. And then make sure that this is lined up along there as well. Because it'll look nicer. We're going to stitch, and I'm going to back stitch when I get to the corner, pivot into the other side, go as fast or as slow as you need to make sure the line is straight. That is important. I'm going to clip that end there, chop off the tails. Excellent. Now, because this has got bag foam, I'm actually going to take a scalpel or craft knife, whatever you like to call them, or whatever you're using. I'm going to cut the foam out because this is going to be too much bulk to try and turn. So I just need to take the foam out like that. Now it's not perfectly out. It's a rough most of it, but that will still be enough. Take your scissors, fold it over, trim it in the center, same as we always do. And then we're going to fold out and then triangle out the corners. Now I'm going to be using double-sided tape on this pocket this time. Because of the foam, it's going to fight me more than I would like. So we're just going to take the fight out by using double-sided tape. So again, into the pocket. Tuck the corners out. And then this time, I'm going to take some double-sided tape right against that sewn seam line. Right there. And then we're going to pull it out so that it's right on that fold, and then use the double-sided tape to hold it in place. Now the reason we have to use the tape is because the foam will otherwise fight us. But look how well that worked. Perfectly. Is the answer that we're looking for? Now I don't do this all the time. I mainly do it with stubborn vinyls and when there's bag foam. But this just takes the fight out of trying to tuck it and make it straight because the tape holds it straight. And even though we're sticking it to the iron-on foam, it still won't make a difference. It's still going to help our cause and hold this down. So from the outside, it now looks fabulous. And I don't have to fight it too much. Now I'm still going to be pulling the pocket out of the way to top stitch this. It just won't be as bad. So I'm using a skinnier double-sided tape. So this is a 1/4 inch tape. I have 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch tape. I find both of them useful in separate instances. For example, 1/4 inch tape is great for this and card slots, and the 1/2 inch tape is better for straps and bigger stuff. Peel off our backing. Now obviously you can skip this, you don't have to put a pocket on the back. It felt like a bit of a waste of space. And because I've only got one zipper pocket on the inside, it meant that at least now I've got 2 pockets. Because I like pockets. So we're going to line that up and press it down like that. Now, I'm not super worried about this just yet because I want to top stitch. So let's top stitch. Crank it up to 4 and off we go. Oh, I know what the problem's going to be. Hold that thought. I might have to take that. Can it hold it up and out of the way all at the same time? I just need to cover up the double-sided tape so that it doesn't hold back my vinyl. Down, pivot, down. Here's where it's going to get a little bit tricky because you kind of have to eyeball where you're stitching. Pivot, up, pivot, back to the start, back stitch. Excellent. Oh, okay. So, don't put the double-sided tape on till later is my official answer to this because I have caught it all. Super annoying. Didn't push it enough out of the way when I was stitching, which is fine. It's just going to take an extra minute to fix. It's still going to work in my favor, I promise. So I'm just going to take off all the bits that come undone from the outside and restitch those sections, making sure that it's not in the way. Sometimes you just have to double stitch things. Excellent. Right, so now that's fine. Oh, now the whole top's not. Come on, give me a break. Right, don't put the double-sided tape on until after you've put your accent on, because now I just have to unpick everything. Just super annoying. We all know how much I hate unpicking. It like caught it by 3 threads, but if I pull on the pocket, I'm gonna wreck the fabric, so I have to unpick it, which sucks. I either cut them, or in this case I'm using a sew awl to pull out the stitches, because I find this easier. Now that's too long and is annoying me, so you trim it off, and the rest should come out quicker. So, in conclusion, and I am leaving this in the video, I'm not going to edit it out. Don't put your double-sided tape, or don't take the backing off the double-sided tape until after you have stitched it all. This corner's got some serious issues. What? Nearly. Right, there we go. 'Tis out. But it has also wrecked the whole top edge. So I have to do that whole top edge again. Super sucky. Making sure it's not under there now. Right. So that could have definitely gone a lot smoother. It's still not terrible. We all make mistakes. It's fine. Okay. Pulling all of that down again. Double-sided tape. Now we need some more zipper. And again, I'm going to singe that at that end or that end so that it doesn't misbehave. That's not what I want. So, crack your zip, add a zip. I'm definitely going to do a tassel cap. The more I think about it, the more fabulous I think it's going to be. I'm going to attempt a two-tone one, if I can find all the vinyl, or if I've got enough left. Okay, so we're going to, again, zip, lay the zip up pull over the teeth so it's flat. Lay this over said zip, tuck it up and under, lining up the edge. Pull, stitch. Then when we get back to the zipper, I'm going to pull, I'm just going to pull that side out as best I can, needle down, pivot. Oh, and I V'd off again. That's all right. Trim off all of these tails, which I have running around everywhere apparently. And then we're going to stitch all the way around this zipper. We're going to close this one because we don't need two open. So I'm going to fold this up. So we're going to stitch, back stitch, down the bottom, pivot, across the bottom, needle down, and then up the side. Excellent. Trim those tails off. And now we have a back pocket with some fringing. I could have made it all the same length. I just thought this would be fun. I like it. Personal option though. Okay. Gusset Bag Pieces. Now we need to find the center of this as well, because we didn't do this one. And we also need to find the center of the base. So we haven't done that yet either. Now you don't have to snip it, or you can use a ruler, but I do find folding it and snipping it the quickest. But each their own. Now, because this is non-directional, we can kind of just put it anywhere. So I'm going to start in the center. Now, because it's got bag foam, I always use a lot more clips when it's thicker, because it's more likely to try and fight me. So I'm going to clip the whole base and then kind of stop at the join, because that's the start of the curve. So then I want to come up to the side and start up here and work my way down. And then as we get to here, this should just push in to the edge of the foam, and it should do it pretty well much for you. But you want to add lots of clips so it doesn't shift while we're stitching. Like that. And then we're going to do the other side. So again, I want to make sure that all of my fringing is out of the way. You don't want to stitch that. You also want to make sure you've cut off all your tails, which I very clearly haven't. I'm pretty sure I just missed the bin throwing them. Okay, that's better. You want your clips to face the gusset again, because we're going to sew it gusset side up. And then again, as we get to this corner, we're just kind of going to push it in so it all lines up. And add lots of clips. Lots and lots of clips. Like that. I do love this bag. I really do want to keep it. Alright, so again, I'm pulling out all of the fringing to make sure that it's out of the seam. I don't want to accidentally stitch it. And then I'm going to start at the top. And I've got my gusset side facing up. I'm going to clean up my clips as I go. And by having this seam open, it's making it less bulky to drive over as well. So if you've got a domestic machine and that's a problem for you, that should hopefully help. Alright. Making sure I didn't get any of my fringing. I got a piece of fringing. Bugger. Luckily for me, it's the very, very edge one, and I'm going to actually cut it off. And that's okay. Because now it matches up with the other side, weirdly enough. Like it was a sign. You want to check your corners, make sure that they're all nice. And then we're going to add our back on. So same thing again. You can start at the edges or you can start in the center. I'm apparently starting in the center, at the edges this time. Doesn't really matter. As long as it all lines up. And then we're going to go around and trim off the excess seam allowance. Because again, we want the bag lining to fit nice and snugly in the bag. Except this time we're not going to leave a gap like we did with the lining pieces, because that would be silly. I never leave my hole on the outside. I don't know, it's my thing. I prefer to leave the hole in the lining. I suppose you could. One day I might try it just to see how different it is for everyone. Maybe it'll be easier, who knows? I will try it one day. Around the edge. That pretty much clipped itself, which is awesome. So, oops. Now I'm dropping everything. So now, we go again. Upon reflection, I possibly should not have started with the one with the fringing. You should perhaps sew the other side on first. And make sure that I'm not getting any fringing stuck in this one. Yeah, okay, we're good. That's what we've got. So I'm going to take our lining and turn it right sides out so I can slot it into the other one. I also want to make sure that this is pushed down so that it's out of my way, like so. And then I want the zipper. Now this is what you want to think about. If I've got the front of the bag here, so I want the zipper to close over here after I trim off that tail. So I am going to grab where the zipper closes and put that. Oh my god, what's with all these tails? I'm terrible at tail trimming today. I'm going to push it in this way so that this end is where the bag will close. And then I'm going to line up the corners first. And I'm going to have the clips facing the lining because that's the way I'm going to stitch it. And again, line it up, clip it down. And then I'm going to do the opposite end. And I probably want to trim off some of this excess because this one's got vinyl in it, so it's a lot thicker. And we don't want thick lining. You can also trim off some of the curve, so it's going to sit nicer in your bag. I'm not overly neat about this. You just want to trim it. Like that. Oops, missed. Doesn't have to be perfectly neat. It just has to work for you. Alright, this end again. So we're going to line it up seam to seam. And I'm going to put 2 clips in to hold it in place. 1 on each side of the seam. So that should line up there and there. Then I'm going to come and line up the center point because that is important. And then you can go along and line up the rest. Do the important parts first and the rest just falls into place. I'm sorry I can't do this on the table, but I'm just better at clipping in my lap. So that's one side. Then again, so I'm pushing down that zipper so that it's out of my way. Oops. And then I'm going to do that there. I'm going all out on this bag. I'm going to add all the hardware. So we're going to have zipper ends, strap ends, tassels, you name it, it's happening. I'm very excited about this. So it's all clipped and now we get to stitch it. Again, I'm going to start wherever. Actually doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start by backstitching though, that bit does matter. And I'm going to go slowly because this whole thing is just a big curve. And then when I get to the point, I'm going to needle down and pivot it out. No, I still need to do one more stitch down. There we go. That's better. Now this is a lot of layers because of all my tassels on this side, but worth it. And I'm bringing the bag up because we are stitching around, so you want to bring the bag with you as you're trying to stitch around. Ugh. Needle wasn't in. See that? Needle wasn't in, and so now I've slipped out of place. So I'm going to go back and just re-stitch the last bit. We're coming down. We're making a point. We're swiveling. Oh, and I've run out of... That's annoying. I've run out of thread. Man, I was so close. Alright, I'm going to do another bobbin and re-clip this. Actually, I'll do that now. Then I'm going to do another bobbin and finish off. Always check on your bobbin, guys. Home stretch. This is definitely the last bobbin. So I'm going to go back to where I left off, and I'm going to go back probably an inch and then re-stitch that last inch to also lock in the last lot of stitches. And then we're going to go down to the point, make sure my needle is down before I pivot, or we're going to have some issues. And around we go. Now, if you've got a cylinder arm, this would definitely be easier to do on a cylinder arm. To which, if I wasn't on a video, I probably would have switched by now. But it's not teaching you anything if I go and do the easy option. So I will stay on this machine. But please know that if you've got a cylinder arm, top stitch this on that. It'll be much easier for you. Alright, so I've stitched all of that all the way around. First thing I'm going to do, chop out this bit at the V. I'm going to chop out all of that so that it will actually be pointy when we turn the bag through. If you don't trim this, it is not going to sit as a point. It's going to be rougher and rounder. You just want to chop out the bulk so it can move. Like that. See? Chop it all out. Then I'm going to come to these edges here and I'm going to chop off the excess so that it's easier to top stitch. You just kind of hack that bit off. Same here. You're going to get nice and close to the stitching here so that when we top stitch, it's not too many layers for the machine to handle. And again, if you've got a cylinder arm, top stitch on that. It will definitely be easier than what I'm about to do. Okay, now we have to turn the bag. So we're going to turn it through this hole here. So I'm going to stick my hand in, grab this corner and push it in so that I can grab it. And then I'm going to try and turn the whole bag like that. And then pull it through that gap. Now this can obviously be a bit tricky. Don't pull with all your force. You'll break something. Then I'm just kind of using my thumbs to shove it all through, like that. And look, we're nearly there. Yay! So I'm making a fist like this and rolling it along the seam to help pull it out. Now this should sit nice and firm because of all the bag foam we've put in it. You want to push all of those seams out so that they're lovely and sitting outwards like that. Cool. And then we would shove that in. However, we need to unzip the pocket that we left the bottom open in so that we can stick our hand in grab these and pull that lining through the zipper so that we can stitch it closed. And then we're going to stitch it closed. Funny about that. You also want to make sure that that seam for the base is facing the direction that we wanted it to. So in, because we stopped right on it. Like that. Trim the tails. Shove it in. Then take the pocket, and I'm just going to tuck under that raw edge with my fingers like that. Pinch it, and stitch that shut as well while we're here. Now I'm going to top stitch this bag because I think it's going to look better. It's going to sit nicer. So we're going up to 4. I tuck that pocket in. Where are all these threads coming from? Right. Zip it shut. Shove it in. All the way in. And I'm actually going to pin this so that it's going to sit. Right? So we're going to get lots of pins and pin the edge. Because of all the curves and everything else that's going on, we want it to sit where we want it to sit. So the side with the fringing is going to be much, much thicker. So please be warned. So mine is so thick that I'm going to take my pliers. Now these are leather tool pliers. They've got smooth in here, so they don't have the bumps. So when I squish it, it's not going to mark anything, but it is going to help make it less bulky. These are amazing. So you're just going to push right on the edge, and I use 2 hands to squish it. And what this will do is flatten that out to make it easier to sew. And I promise they work. I got mine on eBay. In America, lots of people have found them on Amazon. They're not that expensive. And for how often I use them, they are 110% worth it. Because that has just made it. Before I couldn't even get a clip on there. Now look at us go. So the back doesn't need it because there's not multiple layers. I mean, you can still do it if you want to, but it's not needed on the back. It is needed on the front though. So I've gone back to the back. I'm doing the easy bits first. Not even going to lie about that. I enjoy doing the easy bits first. Makes me feel more accomplished. Clip. Clip. So now I'm rolling that onto that edge. And then I'm going to start squishing. So I use 2 hands to make sure I get it as closed as possible. If you've got hand issues and you've got a strong husband, get them to do it. Now, if you're new to top stitching, or if you are concerned, which I am a little bit, I will be doing a full 1/4 inch top stitch on this. Because I don't want it to shift while I'm stitching. And that is a lot of bulk to go through. It'll be worth it. It's just going to be a slow and steady wins the race kind of a deal. But it's looking really good. We're nearly there. Home stretch, people. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to push that down so it's out of the way. I am on stitch length number 4, which is my nice long decorative, and I'm going to use the edge of the foot on the edge of the bag to get a nice stitch. We're going to go nice and slowly, taking the clips off as we go, making sure we're not stitching anything we're not meant to. When we get down to the point, we're going to needle down and pivot to get a nice pointy stitching. And we're just going to roll the bag around as we go around. We're not in any great hurry. Top stitching is like a final gloriousness and you don't want to rush it. What we do want to do is make sure that all of our fringing is well and truly out of the way while we stitch. So I'm now on the bulky edge. But because I've squished it, you'll notice I am getting through it quite easily. Whoops. Bye, clip. I'll find you later. Needle down, pivot up, again, making sure our fringing is out of the way. Pulling the clips up nice and slowly. We are not in a hurry. And because I've squished this, you'll notice I haven't so far had any issues. Also, the 1/4 inch seam allowance helps as we're sewing past a lot of the, remember when we trimmed all the bag down? Doing a 1/4 inch is helping me sew past a lot of that, which means I'm technically not sewing through the bulkiest part. Now that I'm back to the start, I'm going to go through the hole and then back stitch, and we're done. We've done that bit at least, we're not quite finished yet. So, look at our beautiful top stitching. It's all worked out lovely. We are up to our zip now. We've got a whole bunch of hardware going on in here. So, first thing we need is our zipper pull. Just going to make sure that everything is even. And then we're going to take our pull and put one side in and then the other. I wrap it around my finger and then pull. So when you pull, you want to make sure that it is finishing together. That is very important. Then I need a zipper end and one of my tiny screws. Excellent. And then I'm going to fold this under. Now some people like to put glue in here. I'm not a huge fan, but let's just try it. I'm going to use my E6000. Shove it in and just squirt some, because I'm classy like that. Could always use liquid nails as well. So I'm going to fold it over. And then we're just going to shove the zip in. When it's folded in half, it goes in much easier. So you want to be able to push it all the way so it hits the end, and you'll feel it because you can't push it any further. Then I'm going to take my screw. Now this is slightly magnetized, so it will hold the screw for me. And then it's got quite a pointy end, so it can sew through your zip. And you want to sew it until it's smooth and you can't feel it anymore. And that's that bit. Nearly there, but not quite. So next up is our strap. I've got my strap adjuster here. So I'm going to have it as an adjustable strap because it is quite long. If you don't want to have an adjustable strap, just cut it shorter, stick it on, you'll be right. Whatever floats your boat, really. So I'm going to stitch this in my crosshatch pattern that I'm obsessed with because it's firmer than just a single line and it's less likely to tear your vinyl as well. If you put all your pressure on one line of stitching, it's not going to hold as well as if you do the crisscross. And up. Pull that out of the way. And back stitch. Done. So now I'm going to hold this. So I've got the front of the bag facing me. I'm going to hold this bit out, make sure there's no twists, and go down into here like that. Again, making sure there's no twists. I'm going to go through both sides of the connector strap, checking again that it's flat and glorious. Then it's going to go up like this. Before I go any further, I'm going to put a strap end on because I think it's going to look fabulous. And even though actually I might rivet this down, but even though I'm doing that, it will still look much nicer, with a strap end. Now I didn't put one near the strap adjuster because it's a little bit of a waste of hardware. Nobody's going to look there. Whereas this end will be seen. And since I'm going all out, let's do that. So it will be stitched on. So you want to hold it. So that's how it's going to be stitched on. So I want it to be stitched on that way so that my screws are behind it. Again, if you want to, you can put some glue. I feel like 2 screws is probably enough. So in she goes. Oops. These come with interchangeable things. You get like 12 different ends for it. It's pretty cool. I don't change the ends. I only need this one size small Phillips head, but the option's always there. Right? How fabulous does that look now? And so now I am more inclined to put rivets instead of stitching it because I think that's going to look cooler. So that's how the bag's going to go. And I could have even done it the other way, so it sits out like this, which I might do. Or not. So if I was going to do that and stitch it outwards, I should have put the screws on the other side. So we'll stick with my original plan since that's how I've planned it. It'll still look nice there. It'll just be like a small detail. So I need my hole punch and my rivet press. And I'm going to put 2 rivets to really hold it in place. So I'm going to load both of those up, put a hole, and then I'm going to put a rivet in before I do the second one. So I've grabbed 2 rivets. I always have a lot of rivets on hand. So I'm going to put one in completely because that will keep everything lined up before I squish it down. Then I will make the second hole. Put the rivet in. Put the cap on. Line her up and squish her down. You could stop there, but I'm not going to because I've decided we're doing a tassel. So what I have done is I have cut this one the full length of the tassel template, and this one is only 5 3/4 inches because that is a lot to try and shove into one tassel cap. So I thought I would do less of the bulky one, but I wanted to have the 2 colors because I think it will look nice. But again, you don't even need to do one. I just want to because I'm a little bit extra today. Considering I haven't done a bag video in a while, apparently I went completely all out. So I'm trying to wind this as tight as possible. Keeping in mind with how much I need. I reckon I'm only going to need to there So I can chop off that little bit of extra. But I also did just want to make sure, because it's better to have too much and chop it off than not enough, and then it won't fit in the cap properly. That is probably also a little bit too much. So I'm just going to chop it off like 3 prongs at a time. I know this seems wasteful, but because I'm doing a double, I didn't know exactly, and it's not an even amount. I didn't quite know how much, but the two-tone tassel will look fabulous. That should go in now. It's nearly in. So I'm just going to twist and push and twist and push. You want it to be tight. This might be a little bit too tight. All right, I'm going to trim off just another little bit because it's not quite working out. You want it tight, but don't want it so tight you can't actually do it, because that's silly. All right, so that's done it. It's still very tight, but at least now I can actually get it in. But different vinyls will require different thicknesses, so I can't officially tell you which one you should use. Right, but that is in. As far as up as I can shove it, which is good. It's kind of the point. I'm going to attempt to do it a little bit further. So if you twist and push, it's your best bet to get it in as far as possible. Right. Now we just need our 2 screws. And again, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do a lot of things that you don't want to do. This is only slightly magnetized, but it'll at least hold it when you put it on, which helps. Now we're going to stab through all the vinyl. You can hear it slightly struggling. I probably need to update the batteries. I haven't done it since the day I got it. And they got about halfway through. But that's all right. You can manually screw it. Still works as a normal screwdriver as well. And you want to screw it until it's flush and you can't feel it. Oops. I really like this bag. It turned out just the way I wanted. So I do the electric part as much as possible because it's better for my wrists. But that's probably it. I might go buy some new batteries today. These clearly aren't doing it. Screw and done. And then that I'm going to attach to my top zipper. And then it's got like this cool bit to grab. You could also, if you wanted to, if you didn't like it there, you could attach it to this one over here and have it on the front like that. Although you would probably make it shorter because it's now too long. I like it on the top one. That's what I designed it for. But either way, that is now the bag all done. I hope that was somewhat educational. And I hope I've inspired you to make this bag. I'm a little bit obsessed with tassels. So this bag is awesome. There's another one for the love of for the love of buckles that I did that had tassels as well. I don't know. I just like tassels. Anyway, guys, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.